Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And tonight, my guest is writer and director Christian Kang Bachini. Did I pronounce that right?
Hey, hi, Robin. Yes, you pronounced that perfectly. Amazing. One of the few people that actually get Bachini right.
Hey, I just want to make it sound right and professional.
Well, you sounded perfectly, man. You sound like you are from Italy like me.
Oh, I feel special. Yeah, I always wanted to go to Italy. That's cool. So, you had I just checked out your horror short Escalation, which was shown, of course, at the Whorehound Film Festival. And I just want to tell you something. Your film was edgy, very bloody and brutal.
Yes, it was. Yes, it is. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, it's an extreme ride into gore mayhem, and I'm glad that people are liking it, are enjoying it. So yeah, I'm happy that you like it. And as you saw in the film, I also try to be tongue in cheek, like make fun of myself, so that the blood scenes and the gore, they're not too, how to say, they're extreme, but you can still have fun watching them. You can still have a laugh out of all the mayhem.
Yeah, that apartment you were in, was that actually your apartment or was that somebody else's apartment?
Oh, no. Many people ask me this question. It wasn't. It was just like an empty movie set. So it was in a small studio in Shanghai, and there was this like empty house that was like used to make TV series or dramas from the 30s. So the house was empty, and I went to the studio and I asked the studio manager, the owner, like, I don't really have a budget, but I would like to use this house. And he looked at me and was like, you look like a nice guy, just get it for free. And he gave me the house. But all that you see inside, all the furniture, the lights, the neon lights, the motorbikes, everything was art directed by me. So I did the whole interior before shooting. It was just an empty house before.
Yeah, I like all that interior. It looked like there was some like very, pricey stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, I shot this when I was living in China, because I used to live in China for 12 years doing martial art and action movies. So I was lucky enough that I could buy the props, but they were actually very cheap. So one of the motorbikes that I was supposed to use, then obviously I couldn't make it happen. It would have been too long. One of the motorbikes in the living room is like a motocross bike, and it looks very expensive. It was only like $100, but it was a real one. You could really ride that, but it was only $100.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And the film that really got me was being by yourself. Like if you're isolated from everybody, which your character was, you kept yourself isolated inside, which would cause mass hysteria and mayhem, and you start like hallucinating and seeing things. That kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's why I think it's like people kind of relate to Escalation in the beginning, because they kind of put themselves in the shoes of this character. He's alone, he's at home, he's having a nice evening. Obviously, for those who have seen the movie, but for those who have not, the character is like he's not a good guy. He's an evil person, very egocentric, narcissist. So he thinks like he's protected, he's luxurious house, doing his stuff. And then he's really start to lose his mind. He really start to lose his sanity until whole hell breaks loose. So I think that's the scary part that people like kind of connect to. Like, oh, it could happen to me. I'm at home, I'm cooking dinner, and then this happens to me, and I have no control anymore of what I'm doing on my body. And how do I save myself from that situation? So I think that's what hits the most in the audience.
Yeah, especially the part when you started watching that horror film. That was pretty interesting how you played that out, where the main creature in that mask was started talking to you, and you were just like tripping out.
Yeah, like that was like a very interesting approach, because actually Escalation was born as a feature film. I wrote the script as a feature film. Obviously, with my own savings, I couldn't make a feature, so I took a part of the script, the kitchen scene, which is in the feature, the opening, in one of the opening scenes, and I extended it to be a short. So in the feature film, the TV has like a minor role. It happens. He thinks he's losing his mind, this character, but he doesn't really have a bigger play in the feature. But in the shorts, the movie within the movie, the horror film that I'm watching on the screen, and the evil villain, the killer inside the movie, that becomes like the enemy of my character. So it was very interesting to kind of like find a good way to shock the audience, like they're not expecting it. So the first time you see the movie within the movie interacting with the real life, the real world, it always comes as a shock, and people go like, "Ooh," because they don't really see that coming.
I didn't see that coming at first because, it's like, okay, he's just watching a horror film and, and he's starting getting a little bit crazy for just being, by himself, trying to cook a nice Italian meal. And I like the mask on the villain. Tell me a little bit about that mask. How was that mask made?
Yeah, the mask is like is a very similar story to Scream. The mask of Ghostface came to be.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I look at a lot of designs. I had some friends make a mask design for this character when I wanted to make it into a short. I needed the killer, the villain in the movie, within the movie, to look kind of iconic. Someone that could really scare you and be creepy. And I couldn't find the right mask. I couldn't find the mask. I bought some Halloween props, cheap Halloween props online, and they didn't work. They just didn't work. And then one day, randomly, I was like, I was on like a web engine, search engine from Baidu, the Chinese web engine, the Chinese Google, so to speak. And this mask ad pops up. And like, oh, Halloween mask, buy this one, blah, 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 blah. And it was super cheap. And I look at the mask, and this creepy clown, metallic clown mask with screws and stuff. And I'm like, okay, this can look legit. So I just bought the mask. And then, once I put the mask on my face, looking at myself in the mirror, the rest of the costume came by itself. Like, the robe, the hood. It was just like, especially like a Ghostface mask. I was just lucky. I just found that mask. And it was super nice. And I contacted the person making it. Oh, can I use it in my film? So it was like interesting. Lucky.
Yeah, I did like that mask and that whole robe, and I loved the part where the villain was like butchering that poor innocent girl who was all chained up.
Yes, he did. Oh, yes, he did. I mean, he's an evil guy within a horror movie, so that's what I do.
Also, let's talk about the special effects and all that blood. The one thing that really got me was the part when you was getting annoyed by the villain from the horror film. He was getting in your mind, and the character was like really stressing out, and you had that butcher knife, and you were just slicing away, and then all of a sudden you started cutting up your fingers, and that got very, very, very bloody. How'd you do that?
My approach, because when I decided to make it into a short, I knew that I had limited time to kind of leave a mark in the audience. And I wanted to make a film that would be so brutal, but at the same time so well shot, so beautiful to look at, that people, when they're watching it, they don't want to look at the screen, but they actually cannot stop themselves from looking at the screen. I wanted to create this contrast. So you don't want to look at it, but you need to see what's happening, because everything is so well shot and like a comic book. So that was my approach with the violence. That's why it's called Escalation. Once shit hits the fan, so to speak, the gore builds and builds and builds. And because it was a short, I couldn't use too many props. And the budget was limited. I couldn't do too many practical effects. So I decided to work around my fingers, which are body parts that people are very sensitive about. So I say, okay, I'm going to just have this guy do things to his fingers. And it's not going to cost them much money, and I can still make it look good. So I had this, obviously I had a friend helping me making like the latex mold on my own hand, latex fingers, and using some easy tricks, like hiding my real fingers in the cutting board, cutting a hole in the cutting board so my fingers would stick in, and the latex one would just be pasted to my real hand. I could cut them freely, make it look like real. So the funny thing, like I give you like a very funny thing that happened on set. The actual makeup artist that was on set was supposed to help me out, after a few days, she refused to help me. She told me, "You don't have enough props. You don't have enough money. This is not going to look realistic." And she left. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to do it by myself. And so I started, painting the fingers and getting the shots done. And in the end, it turns out to be, as you're confirming, like really brutal and realistic and unsettling. So I didn't let, the negativity of this person turn me down.
Hey, you did a pretty good job. It was very convincing, and you had me invested into that character when he was mutilating himself, chopping those fingers off like that. I was actually feeling that, like, if my fingers were really getting chopped off, and then you started, like, eating them.
Oh, yes. That's like what I was saying. I wanted to create in a very short span of time something so extreme that you think it's over. You think, okay, he's chopping his fingers. Okay, he's breaking this.
Yeah.
And then you think, finally over. No, I bring you to even the most extreme of the aspects. And once, the cannibalization is done, I throw them up again.
You sure did. And when you did that, that gave me a ill feeling in my stomach, not like where I want to run or throw up. I mean, I was enjoying the hell out of your short, man. I have to be sick in the head. I loved it. I loved all the gore, and I loved how your character was in it, and the villain, how he was antagonizing you and all that. Oh man, I was just having fun watching that short.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Your feedback, when people likes it, it was so hard to shoot and pull it off. And it was like a struggle to make it. But now, every time I hear, someone like you give me good feedback, I'm happy. So thank you a lot. It gives me a lot of confidence and motivation for my next films and my next work.
So how long did it take you to film it? How many days did you film that?
Yeah, actually, that took me a long time for a short film. It took me 30 days, a whole month. And the 30 days, they were the version that is going to festival that you saw is the festival cut, which is only 15 minutes. While the original version, the director's cut, my original vision is 28. So in 30 days, I shot 28 minutes, a short film, and the movie within the movie, the slasher that I'm watching on TV, is 12 minutes. So it took me 30 days to get 40 minutes of film. Then in the end, it became like the festival cut, only 15. It took me a long time. And I had to stop because I finished the budget, and then get some work, get the money back, and keep shooting it after like a few months. Luckily, I was really, really lucky that the owner of that film studio, I begged him, please, I need to stop shooting. I finished my budget, but don't change the location. Don't remove my props. Leave it there. And he was so nice, and he told me, okay, I will just leave the house there, but try to make it within 6 months. After 6 months, I had to free the space. And he kept the props for like months and months waiting for me to go back and finish shooting it. It was amazing.
Also, the ending, boy, that was like a twist. I didn't see that going that way, how it ended. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, try to end it on a twist because the story is like very, how to say, it's like I don't want to call it like morality tales, but sort of, So it's basically, your evil conscience that eats himself, Basically, that's what I wanted to prove. So in the end, when the final twist is that you find who's behind the mask, so to speak, you figure out, okay, I see what the short want to say. It's your evil conscience, your evil ego. Sometimes it's the thing that kills you in the end, So better be good people, better be good and loving.
Yeah, that really got me. I loved how it ended. I'm not trying to spoil it for anybody else, but yeah, that was a shocker, and I didn't see it was going that way. After the unmasking, I thought it was going to be something totally different, but that did really throw me a curveball, and I love. Horror films like that, or short horror films where it throws you a curveball towards the end, where it keeps on guessing you, going, okay, so that just happened. Is it going to go, further on? Like you said, you wanted to make it into a feature film, and most independent filmmakers will make these shorts to see how well it goes, and then a lot of people end up liking it, and then you go, okay, if they like it, might as well just do a feature.
Yes, exactly. That was my approach. As I said, Escalation was born as a feature, so I had the script of the feature film already done. But as I was living in Asia, in order to make a movie like Escalation, I needed to be back in the West. The way this market sees horror as supernatural is not a positive light. So I needed to leave the country I've been living for 12 years and start brand new here. And before leaving, I knew that I needed to show something for myself, like, okay, this one is my concept, this one is what I can do in the horror realm, and that's why Escalation came to be. And now as I see people are enjoying it and it's going great at festivals, winning awards, now I'm on to the feature. I think it's a smart way to make things happen. Prove yourself, and then once you show that people enjoy your work, it's going to be easier for you to make the next step, get into the feature realm.
Yeah, I've been looking online on Escalation, and it's really doing good at all these different film festivals. I mean, it seems like it's getting like good reviews.
Yeah, luckily I'm so to speak, like my main goal with Escalation, the short film, was get into a lot of festivals, high tier, top tier ones, get the words of mouth out there, get the reviews, and I'm lucky enough, like, until now, all the reviews are positive. All the websites, the magazines, and Dread Central, you consider Escalation one of the top 7 horror shorts to keep an eye out for this year. So it's really getting like very good word of mouth, very good reception. So I'm happy. Now I'm motivated and pumped. Now I know I can make the feature, and the feature is going to be successful, and it's going to also have like a good comeback money-wise.
That's pretty awesome. You got a good review from Dread Central. That's pretty big.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's as a fan of horror, there are like some media outlets that I really love. They talk about Dread Central, like Bloody Disgusting, Deadline magazine. So there are these that you, as a filmmaker, you think, oh, one day I hope they're gonna talk about me. And so, when these reviews start to come in and I get interviewed by these websites, I'm like, wow, okay, it means I really hit the right spot. So that was like, I'm very, very satisfied by the attention that even these media outlets, websites are giving to Escalation. So, it was tough to make, but now I'm really like enjoying the positivity that is bringing to me and how much people are loving it. So I'm happy. What can I say? I'm happy. I'm happy to be talking to you and everybody that comes to me and say it was amazing and an unforgettable film. Are you gonna make it into a feature? What's next? When I see this excitement for my work, it really motivates me a lot.
That's pretty good. And I hope it does become a feature film because I would love to see it sometime, especially at a film festival. So, what got you to fall in love with horror? What really brought you into fall in love with horror and start making stuff about horror?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a passion that I had since I was a kid. So I think it's like my dad's fault because when I was he was showing me like Return of the Living Dead, the more comedic horror movies, but they were still kind of extreme. And my mom was like pissed. She's like, "Oh, stop showing him these movies. He's gonna become like a maniac or something." And so I grew up watching horror films and action movies. Those they were the 2 genres that I enjoyed a lot. And then in the end, I chose for my first, step career-wise, I wanted to become a martial art actor. I wanted to move to China to make action movies. And that's what I did. When I was in my early 20s, I went to China, learned the language as I was there, and made movie there. And I found out after a few years, as much as that was like really interesting for me, like the passion for horror, I just like to experience strong emotions and the fear, the dread. I just like the feeling. And be into action movies, the horrors that I like a lot are the one where actually the hero wins. That's why Evil Dead is one of my favorite franchises because, Ash Williams is the hero and he wins. While, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, they are the anti-heroes, they always win. The bad guys win. I like, Ellen Ripley, aliens. I like the good guys winning. And horror that wins against, they win against odds that are almost impossible to face against. That's why horror was like, for me, a great, I don't know, it made me really emotional. If I make an action movie and I'm like, fighting against another fighter, And a win is one thing, but when you have to fight a legion of demons, that's something really exciting. Like, how can you win a human being against these monsters? And so I like that kind of vibe. And I found myself slowly start watching more and more horror. So the passion for horror really came up knocking. Like, hey, don't forget that you love us first. You love the horror movie first. And then I decided to step away from like action movies, and Escalation was born. And now I want to prove my hand into the horror realm. And I love Sam Raimi, Peter Jackson, the gore movies they were doing in the 80s. And I just I think it's a great challenge to make horror scary, gory, but also beautifully shot, very dynamic. It's challenging for me as a filmmaker. So that's what put me in the spot that I want to try my hand at it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know you did an action film in China. That's pretty impressive. And then in Escalation, I just want to say the cinematography was just beautiful. How well it was shot. How well it was shot with the lighting, what you had in that studio. And the editing was pretty good, too.
Thank you. I actually I'm happy that you say this, so thank you so much. And I like when people point that out, because one of the challenges of making Escalation, especially shooting in Shanghai, where maybe the kind of like knowledge that people working in movies have about movies, they are not really, again, very deep when it comes to horror. So I have like very big influences. Again, Sam Raimi for the camera, Dario Argento for the cinematography, Lucio Fulci. But when I was explaining these things, they weren't really connecting to it. When I say Dario Argento to a camera operator in Shanghai, it's like, who? It doesn't really know who I'm talking about. So I basically had to be the DOP myself and also the editor. So I was the camera, I was the lead actor, I was directing, writing it, doing the makeup sometimes, and be the DOP. So I would take, one of the guys in the crew, a friend of mine, step in front of the camera, say, stay there, get the camera, show the camera operator the movement that I want. So the DOP in the scene, and then say, you try. Once they did it properly, say, okay, the shot looks good, now I'm going to act. You take the shot. That's why it took me also a long time. I was taking so much on my shoulders. That's why it was really, really challenging. It was really, really tiring experiences. But now I'm happy, when you say that you like the cinematography and the editing also that I did on my own. I just, with my small laptop, my whole laptop, it makes me happy. So all the suffering was worth it. If, you enjoyed it and people enjoyed it. So thank you.
So what's your next project?
Right now, yes, definitely Escalation, make Escalation into a feature film, and then I have another project. I still don't know it's also a feature film. It's like a horror sci-fi, so it's like Escalation level of gore meets Predator meets The Conjuring. It's like a crazy mix. It's like something insane. It is alien abduction, takes place on a spaceship. They're all kind of like body horror transformation, so it's very ambitious. So now I'm working it's called Hunting Skies. So Escalation the feature and Hunting Skies my first horror sci-fi. So I see which comes first. So I am working on both of them. I have some producer involved, interested. So I'll see what happens. I just need, I just want to shock people. So if I can make a feature, I will do my best to make people think that I'm crazy. I want them to go out of the theater or watching it on and say, what did this guy, this director, he's insane. He should be convicted. He should be in an asylum. That's what I want people to take away from the movie.
So where can everybody find you on social media so they know what you're going to do next?
Social medias, you can just for example, Instagram, which is popular a little bit everywhere. So it's my name ID is @Christian, Christian Kang, Kang, Bachini. And then if you just type on Google, you just type Christian Bachini, you will find Facebook, Twitter. So just research Google, you can find me. Or Escalation, you just write Escalation, horror short film, you can still find my socials. So maybe it's easier to remember for people to write that on Google.
All right. Thank you so much for, coming on out of your busy schedule to have this fun chat with me.
Oh, Robin, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. And I love that you appreciate my movie and you give me a chance to share my stories and also motivate filmmakers that when things seems hard, you just go for it and create magic because that's what we do. So thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun sharing all these stories with you.
Everybody else, have a great evening.